So what? Insane. Insane. What's insane? Insane. What's insane?
What's insane, people? Wow, this is quite strenuous to walk like a chimpanzee. But it also toughens you up. So you can say, what's insane, man? Right, so is it insane to ask yourself a question? Like, what's going on? What have we been doing? What about Mad God, that movie? Well, I just started watching it. Yeah, he ain't got it. It's too obvious. It's just like gore. There's nothing really to it. You can already say from the first 5 minutes that he hasn't got it. Because he's lacking the beauty, right? He's just focusing on there's no actual transformation. It's like looking at the outer layer and saying, yeah, it's disgusting. And that's where he's stuck at. So it has not been transformed, because the whole style of the movie is just made to be somewhat disgusting. So if you can get comfortable like this, is that insane? Or is it insane to sit on a sofa and sink into it, that your whole body becomes a part of it? I think that's more insane. I think it's insane how much time it takes me to prepare myself to actually record such videos. It's now 5 o'clock in the morning. I worked until I could no longer do anything. And then I just collapsed into sleep. I mean, what's insane? You know, some people see you sitting like this and they think you're insane. You know, some people, if I were truly to engage with them, how I am also when I'm alone, like, you know, with the kind of intensity in my eyes, you know, if I would look at them like this, you know, they would all leave. Believe me, I've tried these things. I've tried these things. I have been doing things out in the open. I've been walking like an animal in the park. Do you think people come and talk to you? They're intimidated, my friend. If you start reaching for your full potential and you train your mind, you hone your skills, you get better at true yoga. Whatever true is, right? It's a pathway to death. And to some people, even that is insane. Saying openly, you know, that I'm preparing myself to die. To some people, that is insane. To me, that's the only thing that makes sense, because it liberates me from living like, you know, I'm trying to escape. There is no escaping death. No matter how hard you try, no matter how much sugar you eat, you're gonna die, and the people you know are going to die. The only thing that will lead on for some time is your deeds, your actions. And maybe then your family, your children, right? Like the next generations. So in a sense, yes, I am planning to propagate, because I believe that my way of living is way less hostile to nature and to actual life itself, that my way of living is actually introducing some kind of freedom again, because I'm a spirit and everything that keeps me alive has been taken away. Like, I am no longer allowed to freely think. Like, I cannot openly speak here about certain topics because there's an authority that tells me that I'm forbidden. So what's insane, people, is that we're allowing this to happen. That we are so insecure that we are actually happy that somebody's doing this, because we think that we're so terrible that we should not be allowed, just because others before us, you know, failed to see the beauty just like that. I mean, I can see the beauty in myself. I can see the beauty in life, but it's hard to see the beauty in, like, chihuahuas, because it's just so unnatural. I cannot see the beauty in this. I have tried, I have looked, but what's beautiful about running away from human relations? What's beautiful about escaping being alone?
which is literally escaping yourself. What's beautiful about creating something that could never survive on its own, that nature would never bring forth, so that you have something that you can carry around in a handbag because a wolf was too much for you. You killed all the wolves so you can have chihuahuas. Like, this is what domestication leads to. It's literally incest. And that's what's happening also here in small villages. It's then in the end incest. Families. You know, incest is just about what kind of energy you're spending time with. Like, a lot of energy in families is getting stale because they never truly mingle. There's no real exchange. They just sit together and hate other families. I mean, isn't that insane? I mean, who are the chieftains? Who can really guide us to a better world? Well, it's hard to see them. I cannot turn to my parents for this. I cannot turn to my father or mother for this. I cannot turn to my neighbors for this. I cannot turn to my siblings for this. Because they're all too busy with just themselves. And that's a fact. And I'm busy a lot also with other people that have nothing to do with what I was born into in the sense of, you know, family and blood relations, but have a lot to do with, you know, the tribe. You know, I'm looking beyond what we call the atomic family or something. You know, I'm looking into basically anyone I meet. And I see life on a spiritual level. So I see the vision Tolkien had, what inspired him to write The Lord of the Rings. That's how I see what is happening right here. I see people wobbling around on fake pedestals, which are shoes, acting like there's something other than nature, acting like they have no animal body, acting like, oh, look at me. You know, I'm shaving my armpits. I'm shaving my crotch. You know, I met a French girl that said, what's the point of this? You look like a little boy when you shave this. I mean, there's hair for a reason. You're trying to act like, you know what? You're like fresh from the egg, you know? You're trying to get rid of your shame. Well, how about accepting it, moving on from it, you know, letting it go, looking at it, like really like looking at your own shame. It's like, you know, that's what you ought to be doing. What's Mad God talking about? Nothing. It's just bullshit. I mean, I haven't watched it all, but I often, you know, just need a glimpse and you know the rest already. You know the rest already. I mean, you just have to look at my content and you know, okay, this guy is really self-absorbed. He clearly needs a wife that just, you know, really likes him. And that's true. You know, I know this. Because it's concentric. Of course, I'm in the center of my life. You know, I am the center of my universe. And with that, I'm actively engaging. And that means my body needs to be able to do certain things, such as this. But that too has its limits. But it opens up certain things, probably. And that takes a lot of training. Because I seem to be... like, I don't know about other people. But I'm struggling for stability. Other people just, there are some children that are just like that, bam. But I'm more like, woo. I mean, being stable to me is actual effort because I'm like this. Shh. My mind is constantly being drawn into all kinds of things outside of myself. So what I find insane is, right, how much I'm struggling to fit in. I've tried, but all these things just fell away. I think it's insane how some people cannot see how bad their behavior is for them. Right? I mean, I see no beauty in the way we, mass production is unbeautiful. It's not. I mean, there's nothing to it because it loses quality. In order to get satisfaction from the meat you buy in the shops, you have to buy lots of it because it's lacking actual power. Because what you eat is a weak animal, a weak being. Calling something an animal so you can look down on it, that's insane. That's insane. But to most people, that's just normal. You treat a dog like a dog, which is something, you should look down on and punish. So what's insane? To me, I call things insane. But on the opposite side, there are people seeing me sitting here like this, and they're like, that guy must be crazy. They're being hypnotized on all fronts. Propaganda through radio, propagating, certain beliefs and ideals about the world, but rejecting others. So if I were to come in there and speak about my ideas of health, how going into the forest, into nature, and getting stung by mosquitoes to me is actually healing. It's activating certain energy centers in my body. And then I have made certain conclusions for myself based on, years of observation. I've been actually trained to observe during my studies. I've been trained to analyze large amounts of data, but I stopped using the computer for that. I just honed my mind so that my mind is basically concluding. I just keep observing and my mind throws out insights that are based on what I've seen, but for that I have to make actual experiences. I have to sit quietly. I have to observe myself, and then I have to seclude myself from anyone who may interfere with this process. And then I have to come to certain understandings that, I don't have to do this, it just happens. I observe myself and then I sit alone and I come to these places where I realize what bullshit people have been feeding me. Also, the food that they make, that cooking a meal is about more than just throwing shit together. That if you go to restaurants, the meals you receive are often full of greed because they just cook for the money. They no longer cook for the love, because if you're a chef in a restaurant and people come to eat and they pay money, they pay money, but they don't have time. So instead of going there and then paying money and then getting a proper meal where the chef has the time that he needs, half an hour maybe an hour, people don't want this. So they sit there, and if it takes more than 20 minutes, right, they're already prepared to leave, Well, I'm just gonna order takeaway next time or something, right? That's how people are these days. They think because they pay for it, they have the right to command. Yeah, not on my watch, man. You cannot command me to do anything. You do what you do and I do what I do. And if you find value in what I do, feel free to donate. Buy a book, beats me. I don't care. I'm gonna somehow manage because I'm actually living and I'm actually participating. And there are, I believe, at least some people that see a value in me and feel like he should be kept alive because, I'm there, I'm friendly, I'm also sharing what I have, whatever this is, I'm sharing it. It's mostly myself, that's who I found, that's who I worked hard to uncover from the nonsense people have been pushing onto me, their own beliefs about themselves, projected onto me. And for some time I sucked it all up. But they could never really twist me. They could never make me think that I'm super sexy or beautiful because, and even now, sometimes I see like this, I think, oh yeah, very handsome. I see like this, I think, quite ugly. So I can never be just this one thing because everything has multiple facets to it, perspectives. So what some people call insane, to me, is the most liberating thing I could find, which is like animal movement. Anything that goes outside of being a fake is already considered insane. So if I go to the park and I speak truth, which is, pointing out stuff about the industry, what people think is insane is already, you're getting too much attention. Yeah. Because most people are afraid of attention, because what they've been trained in school is, attention is often punishment. And also in their upbringing, attention was often punishment. So a child learns to only get attention for the things that get a reward. So in this society, you get a reward for being a prick. Others laugh if you if you downsize someone in your group of friends, you'll get applause, right? I mean, I was facing these things even now in the last couple of years. People were trying to discriminate me a lot for lots of things. I mean, I think it's insane that you spend 5 hours cleaning a car. I think it's insane that you drive 10 minutes with your car so you can go for a walk. Why doesn't your walk start at your apartment? Why do you need to take the car to drive then to take a walk? Because you should start walking where you are. Some people feel like that's insane. I no longer feel like I actually want to even ride a train, because it severs the roots, literally severs your roots, spiritual roots. Now I'm here up in the 3rd floor. I find that insane because I feel disconnected up here. I feel disconnected. I want to be in nature all the time, but up here I'm super disconnected. No matter how much wood is in here, I feel super disconnected. So what's insane? No longer knowing who you once were, because everyone came to tell you how you should be. I mean, I'm just talking about, on the surface, but there have been some reports that came through from the transgender community how vicious these people are towards each other. They're like a cult, right? So, I've got a penis. The simplest way is to accept that, and then man is just a word. And if a woman, then what we call woman, has a vagina and breasts, but there are soft like natured men, and there are soft natured women, and then there are like really tough men and really tough women. So in that sense, what gender has spirit? Well, spirit probably has no gender, because there's warrior type women and warrior type men. And there's, like the movie Woman King, I think that's how it's called, is clearly talking about this. Women, it's just about also, okay, the physical things or what happens in the body of a woman is clearly, there are different processes. And there used to be time, they say women are closer to tears. Yeah, I'm sorry, but in this society, no wonder. Because everybody's a wuss. Everybody's kind of like too much comfort. So women just sit around crying. I mean, think of times where we were nomads. Think of these women in the Amazon rainforest that walk around. There's like spiky stuff. They'll know hardship from an early age. They will know that there are snakes that if they bite you, you're dead. They know, they grow up under the threat of death, which is the gift of nature, because it tells you to struggle. And then we invent comfort, and we try to keep out nature as much as we can. And then what happens? well, then people get kind of insane. So people lose their minds. I think there's a lot of reports also from, like the Amazonian rainforest. They band together in villages. I mean, I get it. You can clearly lose your mind because there has to be some kind of a purpose. But if your leader gets bonkers and nobody realized it, then you're screwed. Because everybody, we give too much credit to whoever we think the leader is. You should be allowed to question your leaders without feeling afraid of punishment. And then it should just be a matter of communication. But it's just easy to lose track also, because there is so many people. But what's insane is like a roller coaster park. I mean, this is just unnatural speed. I'm actually looking into the effects of travel by airplane and also by car, effects on the spirit, because I realized if I'm in nature, I feel good. Yeah, I mean, okay, I still am, reluctant to give in to, I feel like I draw a lot of strength from food. I eat a lot to ground myself because I'm afraid, if I stop eating, I'll just, literally, my spirit will just leave. Because my mind is already quite up in the air. I cannot stop this. It's just like that. And if I stop eating, I'll just... And there's already so much stuff flooding in. So I need to, in a way, ground myself. And what grounds you is movement. What grounds you is food, in a way. Everything that keeps you in the here and now, right? Focusing on what you're doing. So I cannot. So if you look at the word, of course, insane, it says sane and then you put an in before it and suddenly it's not sane. Language is kind of, just look at these words. Animus, animosity. I've talked about this. But if you look at the times and you see how the meaning of the word changed, that animosity, what we consider it to mean today is, kind of like angry towards your environment, hostility, while hostility, of course, just draws from the word to host, and that means it's just something you have in yourself. So we look at the word animosity and we say, hostile towards your environment. But hostile is also an empty word. It's whatever you have in yourself that defines what hostile means. And what animosity stems from is the word animus, which you may know from Assassin's Creed, which just means spirit. So you say, animosity just means spirited. A lot of times I have been dealing with people, sometimes I just speak like this to them and they say, could you stop shouting? Or could you stop yelling at me? I'm like, I'm not yelling, I'm just talking like a normal person would talk. There are people, even in my own family, I'm talking like sister-in-law, who treat me like I'm the culprit, like I'm mad. They're trying to screw up my mind by acting like I've lost my mind. But then I look at their behavior, how they say, that their child will not eat sugar, and then you see them feeding it sugar. Well, before they said, I'm not gonna do this, and then they're doing it anyway. Right, and then if you start to see this, they try to blame you. Because what they realize is, oh wow, we all thought Christopher was kind of crazy, and suddenly he's doing these intense yogic forms. Suddenly he goes hiking for 30 kilometers just like that in bare feet in all kinds of weathers. We sit around complaining about this weather and that weather, and Christopher comes and says, what's weather? Good weather, bad weather, it's just weather. And weather is just a word. I don't care whether or not. There's also weather for lots of things, but I just had during the hike that I did when I recorded Making Fire Your Way, one of the most beautiful moments I had was when it started to rain. It was pouring down and I was sitting under 3 spruce trees, just like that, put on my rain poncho and was sitting there, ate chocolate. And it was the most beautiful moment. My phone was here, I left it. That to some people would be insane. You see, they're living on the other side of the veil. I've been where they are, and I walked through something, and now I'm looking back. But for them, everything's kind of murky, right? They no longer know who's friend or foe, and so they're like, and then you come and you're like, hey, what's going on, man? What are you stuck in? The question is, why can't I even see it? Well, because I've been trained to see. Then the question is, how is it even possible to see these things? Well, because I simply started orienting myself on nature. Because in nature, you've got trees, and they grow like this, up into the sky. They dig roots into the ground, and they send branches out into the heavens. And then in the middle, they have this strong pillar. And I simply started to orient myself on nature, but most people orient themselves on their surroundings. So they look for stability in their parents, they look for stability in their friends, they look for stability on their phone, they look for stability on some kind of faraway politician or the idea that the politician tries to create, which is like he's some kind of guide. But if he's obese, how can he guide me if he cannot even guide himself into proper diet? If he wears glasses, how can he guide me into the future if he is too blind to see that glasses make his eyes weak? So there's nobody I can really rely to in terms of choices for my own life, because what I have realized simply by living it, spending time looking at it, and then pushing it around in my mind until I got to some kind of conclusion, I realized, movies kind of make you sick, man. Because if you watch stuff like Mad God, then they call it, it's the masterpiece, 30 years in the making. It's just advertisement, man. And then you see this guy in the background like, oh, I've succeeded, I'm finally complete. Now I'll be acknowledged. And you just look at it and you think, I don't know, it looks kind of shit to me. It looks kind of shit to me because it's lacking nature. It's lacking nature. If he would have brought nature into it, different story, but he did not. I mean, it's just gore. And gore is like the underbelly of what you could have done. It's just what I think. I mean, to me, it's not a stroke of genius to see something, find it disgusting, and then display it as such. The idea is to bring it into the light, to give hope back to people instead of just mirroring them shit. Hope is nature is still here. Nature is still here. That's what it is. Nature is still here. Mad God is the product of a dirty mind, which means it's the product of a lazy mind. Because to clean your mind, that's what sadhana is for. That's what meditative practices are for. That's what transcends. That's what I've been doing. It started with psychedelics, and I continued to simply stabilize the states I had experienced during times where I had ingested psychedelics. And then I simply had to find stability like this, by strengthening myself. I think it's insane that if you look around in the environment and you start walking around like this, like strong, stable, that you see people that are like this. Just yesterday, I went to some nature area. On the way there was this woman. She was wearing shoes. You could also tell from how thick her legs were, all the energy that's trapped in them. She was walking up like this. Right? Completely unbalanced, completely like no grounding, completely weak legs, wobbly, left side, right side, completely out of proportion. This is the people you see, they kind of like walk to the fridge, and they walk back, and they sit, and they sleep, and they have these super soft mattresses, and then they have back problems, and they get another mattress because of the back problems, and I just sleep on the carpet. Because to me, it's a much more natural thing to sleep on the carpet. And that's so hard to communicate to people, the benefit you get from hardship. And if life has no hardship for you, then go, looking for it, but in you don't go looking for hardship in the sense that, you don't have to create more trouble than there is. What I mean is hardship, you go hiking and you just bring an apple. Sometimes I go hiking and then I just don't take any water. And then I just have to live off the water that I drank before. Right? So I'm working my way towards it. So this time I went for a hike. I said, okay, I bought 1 bar of chocolate. My feeling urged me to take it. I brought 1 piece of meat and a bit of spice for it. I brought no tent, I had a tarp. I brought no shoes. I brought a liter of tea and a liter of water, so 2 liters. I brought myself, I had my action cam. I wore short trousers. I also brought the slackline, which I probably will not do for hiking again. If I slackline, I slackline. And I was glad I had the chocolate, because the transition from having food available all the time into going hiking and just having what you brought, because I have never been trained to live off the land. So I cannot just go around and say, hey, I can eat this and I can eat that. And I cannot just go hunting. I would, but who would I learn from? If you want to hunt in these forests, then you have to shoot with guns, and that I will never do. I mean, if I would have been trained, I'd be hunting with a bow and arrow, or with a knife or whatever. And that to me is more natural, which to most people, they would say it's insane. So to some people, Gollum was insane, but it was because of him that the ring got destroyed. He carried the thing, he kept it safe. Somebody took it from him, but he was the one that threw it into the fire. And then people said he was insane, he was living in a dark cave. Maybe he had his purpose. So what's insane? He survived for a very long time. And now I'm getting hungry again, which I find insane, because I just ate. Every time I eat, I have to defecate. What is the natural state? I feel like creating this content and channeling myself into these creations is actual I'm just drawing from myself. This is like I'm harvesting myself. I'm pouring my spirit into these creations just to give people something they can sit with, something they can spend time with, that can just free themselves of the concepts that they've been fed. Which is why, in a way I say I'm a concept artist, because I do work with concepts. What's insane, how long I've been doing this, how little credit you get for it. That's insane. But at the same time, who cares? Because as long as I can do it, I don't really mind. So I just keep creating. And that I find insane, how much I can still do. And how alone I am all the time. Because who I thought I'd be with never showed up. So in a way, I feel like I've been left at the altar. On the physical plane, while on the spiritual plane, I feel like she's living on the other side. Waiting for a moment to come through to me. I have a completely different concept of time. I live kind of also by the moon phases, but because it's hard to see the moon here, I have an app for that. I find that insane. So I'm starting to pick up differences in energy, also consciousness-wise, in relation to moon phases. And if I tell that to you, you're gonna say, obviously. But if I see it your life, I realize, obviously not. Because to you, every week has to be probably the same. You know, if you're working the classical 9 to 5 job, how are you supposed to change? I mean, if you would have lived in a tribe, there were no weekdays. You know, there were probably, let's say, during a full moon, maybe they hiked through the night. If you were like nomads, maybe there were certain rituals during the full moon. What's the ritual here? People don't even know anymore what moon it is. But it still has an effect. And they're trying to have every day the same. You know, I have times where I sleep a lot, and then I have times where I'm awake a lot. And I cannot control this. I mean, I can drink a coffee and I can stay awake longer, but then in a way it's also unnatural. So I started to drink more tea, and that to me is much better. I also reduced sugar, but going completely without it is also really hard, especially if you're struggling. So my spirit also needs certain things. I have realized that if I fail to acknowledge that my body is an animal, then I lack the strength to live. So I'm a being of nature. I do occasionally eat meat. I certainly eat milk products, and I realize that without them, I'd be spread out really thin. And maybe that would be better, but it's like living in cocaine, right? That's the word for the land of plenty. COCKAIGNE, cocaine. You know, it's the country where, you know, milk and honey run in streams, and where people lay around like stuffed full to the brim with food. This is this place. But then there's a cost to it. You know, I'm addicted to food, to drawing strength from the outside instead of having it on the inside. It's hard to see how people would have lived before. Like, how long could they go without food? How often did they get food? Talking about Vikings, how often did they eat? You know, did they hunt all the time? What did they eat in winter? I mean, these are things you can only figure out for yourself, but I mean, what I see is we live in a world, the supermarket is full of food. There's meat in the supermarket, lots and lots of meat. So, of course, it's somewhat empty, it's lacking strength. But if I look at nature, then nature is far from doing fine. There are very little wild animals. Sure, there's deer, but I feel like these are no times to be like really hunting forests. These are no times to be cutting down trees any longer. We have to plant trees and invite wildlife back in. But at the same time, of course, it seems very far-fetched, because the kind of mental stability you need to go hiking in a forest where you know there's wolves, like if there were wolves, nobody would go in the forest anymore. And I'm telling you, is that bad? I think it would be good if the forest would become intimidating again. If you actually knew, if I go into the forest, I may actually die. Because then, you wouldn't sit around drinking in forests. No, you would drink in the tavern. But if you would travel across land, you'd keep your wits together, which is then turning nature back into an actual challenge. But most people, they would never allow this. They'd rather, keep shooting anything larger than a fox just because they're afraid. And that to me is insane. I mean, if you're so afraid that you start killing everything in your surroundings that could harm you, such as free spirits, because free spirits are harmful to this kind of society that people cling to. Because sure, you can appreciate or love anything. You can even, embrace chainsaws and then inhaling toxic fumes instead of just sawing with your own strength. So I feel like we're living in times where we just have to use what's available. And there's food being chucked out, food being thrown away. I mean, in a way you can live from the trash, even if you live a normal life. You can get food from supermarkets that they would otherwise throw away. You could get, you can go for the bargain prices. You can go containering. I mean, okay, some supermarkets just close off their containers and stuff, so you cannot do it. I'm reluctant to do it in a way because food already comes. Because I'm in a lucky position, my neighbors, they are in some kind of group where you can, get food from supermarkets that they would otherwise throw away. Some stuff I take, some stuff I don't. Sometimes there's stuff that's full of mold, but sometimes you can cut it out, of course. I mostly stay away from the bread. Milk products are okay. Fruits are always okay. Cheese, of course, is very welcome. But hey, nobody's forcing you to do anything. I just think there's so much stuff available. I mean, and that's how you start preserving your energy, by not having a Netflix account. Because as long as you have the account, you feel like you have to watch stuff, because otherwise it's a waste. Yeah, it's a waste anyway, because you could be out there hiking, you could be doing crochet, you could be writing your next book. Instead you sit around watching movies, and movies destroy actually your mind. Because instead of telling stories yourself and just having visions, you just overload yourself. I just watched 5 minutes of Mad God. And the contents of somebody else's mind are invading the contents of my own mind. And that's what we're working with. Sure, you can look at the imagery, but I've already seen enough, I think. And maybe I have to watch it till the end. But it just is so unnatural. It's just so unnatural. So I think it's about time that each of us found an outlet that actually transforms rather than recreates. I mean, Hollywood is clearly at a dead end. They're just doing the same stuff over and over again. There's occasionally this marvelous new creation, but in the end, it's the same thing. It's you sitting and then stuff, instead of actually going out into nature and really doing things. So I'm now in the middle between, a part of me still feels like watching movies, while the other part thinks it's a complete waste of time. So I think it's possibly okay to keep engaging with it occasionally, but there's this new creation from Tim Burton coming, Beetlejuice. But I'm not so sure, man. I have misgivings about the whole film industry, because at least I can say that, yeah, sure, my content is on YouTube and server space is really toxic, requires a lot of resources, but at least there's no advertisement for my movies, you know? People would just watch it at home. But at the same time, I feel like there's something to be learned here. I want to see if it is possible to do what I'm doing without having comments activated, right? Without doing what I think people want me to do, and just see where this is gonna go. Now I'm trying to plan a bit, because I had the idea of still recording me playing Crash Nitro Kart, but at the same time I've already played it, so what's the point of playing it again? But then again, I've also already played read Alice in Wonderland, and now I'm recording it again. So it may be just a welcome exchange, but at the same time, what's the point? I mean, can I not just leave computer games behind me? Because as long as I keep playing them, which I haven't done in a while now, a couple of months, then I'll always feel like going back to it, which then is another trap. So at one point you should just accept that movies are actually out of the question, because you've understood what they do. You know, it's just for somebody who is like trapped and imprisoned to spend time with, which is basically masturbation. You know, only somebody who's frustrated. It's like if you're being enslaved, you know, then you'll use masturbation. And it's being given to the masses. Here, pornography, freely available. I don't even have to go to the darknet for that. You know, I can just type something in and every child with a phone has access to it. I mean, Dessous advertisement that children can see in malls, that's insane, man. Sexualizing women. Right. You know, not even seeing anymore that pigs are actual living beings, treating them like objects. That's insane. You know, recreating basically like mass murder, what we blame the Germans for, right? What they did in Second World War II, and then taking the same methods and using it on other beings and acting like they're just vicious animals. We can treat them like this because they're beneath us. Yeah, what is happening, man? So what's insane? It's no longer being able to distinguish yourself from everyone else. Because you have no experiences on your own. You're just clinging to anyone. And I just sit here. Okay, I'm just being creative. But I realize that if I go to nature, I feel much better. Yesterday I left the house. I went to Slackline and record this video because at the moment I'm focusing on pushing through this content. I'm alone most of the time. That would be enough for people to say it's insane. What I find often weird is that I'm supposed to be like this 35-year-old guy, but I just feel like a child, man. I sit here, I feel like I have the body of a child. But sometimes I feel like incredibly masculine and muscular, and then there are times where I feel incredibly thin and scrawny. No, everything changes, and people want everything to be a constant. There is no constant. Everything changes all the time. So how can I be the same in winter as in summer? There's ups and downs to everything, because I'm hiking through my mind and then I'm reacting to it. Just like this. And if I'm here down here, then I have to eat different things than when I'm up here. Because when I'm up here, I can just let go. And that's usually the times when you don't have to eat. But then when you hit another low point, then you have to eat or breathe or just push through so you can like come up again, right? So you just have to live a flexible lifestyle. So yoga isn't just about wearing these super tight pants. That's everyone who wears this has no idea what yoga is about. And that's a fact. That's clearly a fact. Anybody who has a yoga mattress or who has these tight pants is stuck in no, they have no idea what this is about. And that's a fact. It's just what I'm seeing, it's what I'm saying. I have already made different choices from a young age. I would have never had a tattoo in my face or on my eyes. So anyone who has clearly fails to understand something here. That's just what I think. So I'm just trying to be the best expression of myself that I can be, and then look forward to maybe being together with my wife, who I believe I have already met. But that is just a feeling. My feeling says she's somewhere else, preparing herself to be a mother. That to most people would be insane, because everybody's like clinging, right? You're in a relationship and then you have to hold hands. You know, you want your woman to give you what you lack. But if I have balance in myself, then I'm an individual. Then I can act just according to my environment. And if I'm an individual and a free spirit, Then I learn to be man and woman. I take care of myself. I cook my own food. I have to do my dishes. I have to do the laundry. There's no woman that does that for me. And now the question for me is, if a woman, or this woman, because there's only one, I will allow into my presence in that sense. I have given the role of the wife to a woman already, which is the woman I can see myself in, which is then your mirror, which is, if you lead the life of a yogi or something, that's clearly a requirement. You need somebody, like this. Otherwise, to me, it's, I can just stay by myself then. But I know I need someone who's thinking along the same lines as I am. So I don't have to struggle against her all the time, because that would just be a drag. And I would just lose interest and stop spending time with her. Just naming it as I feel like. I need this. So I cannot stand people that are manipulative. I often face them head on, because a lot of people have their spirits just have gone nuts. They act completely unnatural, and they project everything they find bad in themselves onto their environment. So even in family constellations or in friendship constellations, there's a lot of that happening. People coming together, and when they disband, everybody gossips. I know there's a lot of gossip about me, dishonesty, but what do you expect from people that run around in shoes, wear perfume, put on makeup, look like weird puppets during Christmas with like red lipstick, like it's like, what are you? So I just start to not participate in certain things. New Year's Eve I spend alone, and I just did my own thing. I recorded 5 episodes of my podcast, my German podcast. I thought that was interesting. And to me that was, in a sense, a worthwhile experience, because I don't like this, the way we celebrate. And now I'm celebrating ending this video, and I'll just drink more tea, and probably I'll just watch Mad God, just to see if there is something to get from this. I mean, to some people it's insane to see how much I pre-recorded my content. I mean, this video will be released sometime in whatever, and today is the 21st of May 2024. Yeah, I'm planning ahead, because I'm working hard now, so that if the time comes, I shall have time with my wife. And then you may think, what I also find insane, let's say you see someone's wife, and you think, wow, she's attractive. I can tell you from personal experience, if you would try to love this woman, she would drive you insane, man. She would never let you get anywhere. I'm just telling you. Like, true women women that also want to be free spirits, they need a man that can take a lot of rejection. A lot of women actually need a man that can take a lot of rejection and then still be there. I'm just saying. Women may need a lot of time to prepare themselves, and you have to give that to them, or else they will find someone else. But if a woman chooses you, well, then prepare yourself for a tough ride, because in a sense, right, she may just leave you for some time without saying anything, and you don't really know if she's gonna do that again. Right? You don't really know if she's not good. So that's what I think. I feel like I've chosen a woman. I never see her. She's just gone. I feel like there's a heart connection. But then I think, well, what if she were to come back and we were to have children? Would she just leave after 10 years saying, well, I've done my job, goodbye? So there's no guarantee for anything, So if she were to come back, then what? I could never leave her again. I feel like I could never let her, I could not go hiking on my own. Sometimes I feel like that. She'd have to be there. But that's unmaintainable. So you just have to have trust. She's there. When she leaves, you just take a breather and continue. Right? That's just how it has to be. And I don't understand it. But there's no rules for this kind of life other than, respect for respect. And you gotta fight to survive. So if you found a bit of freedom, and you want that to survive, and you want to share it, then you have to fight. I'm fighting for nature. Because everybody's picking on her. Acting like it's creepy and stuff. What? Everything you have comes from it. Even the camera, everything, the plastic. There's nothing that cannot be traced back to nature. Everything you can trace back to nature. Like my voice, my whole body, everything goes back to nature. The food that I eat, the fridge that I have, the electricity, even internet, everything, the servers, everything. Beamers, cinemas, plastic, I have already said it. Your car, everything comes from nature. And we act like, we just sit around, this animal is disgusting, this is disgusting, look at this, this comes from being weak, being wobbly. Your mind is disgusting, and that's why everything you see is disgusting. Well, Mad God kind of looks disgusting, but you can probably see beauty in that. It's just, maybe it's good also to look at the guy for a second who created it, but if I look at the movie, I can already see who's behind this. Some neglected child that wanted attention. And now he may have gotten it, but it will never be enough for him. It will never fulfill him. Because he has secluded himself from nature. And he lives in some kind of like tormented mind. Because that's the contents of his mind, which means that this is what's happening inside of him. So it's the story of a neglected child. It's the story of seeing a world that's full of greed, seeing a world that has no empathy. You know, okay, there's oneness and then there's me. And when you start seeing yourself as part of your environment, then you will understand what I'm talking about. Sometimes I feel weak and then I do these things and I realize how much strength I have, but my lower back is still problematic.
So what's insane?